Welcome back, everybody, to 31 1980s horror movies for Halloween, where I'm counting down my favorite horror movies from the 1980s. At number 4, we have another tie. Like I said, I have no problem putting two movies in the same spot. And at the number 4 spot, we have my two favorite Italian horror movies. My two favorite Italian horror movies of all time. And that is The Beyond by Lucio Fulci and Cannibal Holocaust by Ruggero Deodato. For years, I've gone back and forth between these two movies. There were times when I would say Cannibal Holocaust was my favorite Italian horror movie. There were times that I said The Beyond was my favorite Italian horror movie. And I went back and forth so much that I just decided, you know what, fuck it, they get the same spot. The reason that they are in the same spot is because they're both great movies, but great in different ways. First, you have The Beyond, which is just a good, atmospheric, gory horror movie. And then you have Cannibal Holocaust, which is a disturbing, messed up movie. With The Beyond, you can watch that at any time. With Cannibal Holocaust, you have to be in the right frame of mind to watch it. Now, I have watched Cannibal Holocaust a few times. That says a lot about me, I guess, but it is a movie that you do have to be in the right frame of mind for. That's the case with most disturbing movies.
I'm not speaking as a scientist, but as the man on the street. This so-called documentary footage is offensive, it is dishonest, and above all, it is inhuman.
And they're so different from each other. On the one hand, you have Cannibal Holocaust, which is a movie about this professor of anthropology going into the Amazon jungle to try and find this missing documentary film crew. Yes, this is... I don't call it a full-fledged found footage movie, but it is the movie that started the found footage genre, essentially. Or at least made the found footage genre popular, or whatever. Anyway, this guy goes into the Amazon jungle to find this missing film crew that was doing a documentary on cannibal tribes. He finds out that that crew was murdered by the tribe. He gets the footage back, watches the footage, and then finds out the atrocities that this documentary film crew committed against the tribe, which led to them being killed. And then you have The Beyond, which is going... It's a very gory movie, very bloody movie, but it's going more for atmosphere and a dreamlike quality. It's about this woman who gets a hotel in New Orleans. She has inherited this hotel, trying to get it up and running, but then discovers that it was built over one of the 7 gateways to hell. The Beyond was the second installment in Lucio Fulci's Gates of Hell trilogy, the first being City of the Living Dead. There is a plot here, but the thing about The Beyond, and similar with City of the Living Dead, The Beyond is focusing less on telling a straightforward story and focusing more on getting you to experience a nightmare. The Beyond is very similar to Suspiria in that regards, where it's more about creating this nightmare world for you to experience. And yeah, people would make the argument that some things in this movie don't make a lot of sense. Well, nightmares don't make a lot of sense, so yeah, this movie captures a nightmare perfectly.
You can't take me! I don't want to go back! Stop tormenting me! Don't come any closer! Don't come any closer! No!
And going back to Cannibal Holocaust, yes, there were things done during the making of this film that I do not condone, but I don't think that lessens the impact of the movie. The movie does have a message about how people treat primitive tribes and how the media will be okay with sensationalizing violence and telling certain things in order to in order for sensationalism. And, yeah, okay, the things that went on behind the scenes of Cannibal Holocaust, I don't condone them, but in a way, I think that makes the movie even more relevant. But looking at the movie alone, it is very disturbing, it is very hard-hitting. I remember the first time I watched Cannibal Holocaust, I only got halfway through and then I stopped it. And it took me a few years to return to it, but I've never been able to forget the feeling that this movie gave me. First time I watched it, I hated it, and I only got halfway through it. But I was never able to stop thinking about it, and I said, I want to watch the rest of it, I want to continue watching this movie, and after watching the whole thing, it just affected me on such a level that made it one of my all-time favorite horror movies.
Right! Don't you get it? We can never keep up with them in the jungle. This way, that buck will go slow enough to take us right to the village.
And with The Beyond, Lucio Fulci is one of my all-time favorite directors. His gore is fantastic, his atmosphere is fantastic, and I love how he mixes suspense with his gore scenes. It's not just like, okay, we're gonna show some gory effect and then go to something else. He takes his time in certain moments to have the gore happen. My favorite Lucio Fulci kill is the spider scene. There's this guy who falls off a ladder and lands on the ground, and then all these spiders crawl over to him and rip his face apart. Now, people have questioned that scene. They say, oh god, how come he's just laying there? That's stupid. Well, keep in mind, he did fall off a ladder, so you fall off a ladder and land on your back, there's a very good chance you're not getting back up. But again, it's all about getting you to experience a nightmare. How many of us have had a nightmare where we can't move while something terrible is happening? And then you have the spiders ripping his face apart, and it's gory and awesome, but it does make you tense up. But then you have my favorite kill in Cannibal Holocaust, and I can't show much of it here because of the nudity. You can thank YouTube for that. But anyway, going back to the impaling scene, it's a heartbreaking scene as well as a disturbing scene. The documentary film crew sexually assaults a native woman, and then after that is committed, we then see her impaled on a pole, through her ass and out her mouth. This is done in found footage style, so the film crew walks up to the body, and one of the more disturbing parts about this scene is that the head of the documentary film crew, Alan, when they first come across this body on a stake, he's smiling at first, because the film crew is all about getting good footage, and they have no respect for these primitive tribes. They commit all these atrocities against them so they can get some good footage. They do not value human life. They value fame more than any of that. So when he sees this scene and realizes, hey, this is something that'll shock the people at home, he's smiling. This moment says so much about this character in just one look when he's sitting there smiling. And then you hear the guy filming say,
Watch it, Alan, I'm shooting. Oh, good Lord. It's unbelievable. It's horrible.
The thing about this scene is there's a calming music playing throughout it, which makes it even more disturbing. And the actress, the entire time she's on this pole, she is completely still. And I think the way they were able to I've always thought about how they were able to do this. I think what they did was there are scenes where there's static over the film. And I think there might have been moments where the actress twitched and then they just put static over it to make her look like she's completely still. Essentially, what they did to accomplish this is they put a pole and they put a bicycle seat on it. They had the actress sit on the bicycle seat and then put a piece of balsa wood in her mouth. I've always wanted to try to recreate this scene, just because this scene has stuck with me for so long. Every time I see it, it sort of it's kind of hypnotic in a way, just because, like, wow, how were they able to do this? It looks really, it looks gnarly, but it just looks so damn real. So I've always wanted to see if I could recreate this scene, without murder, of course.
I can't understand the reason for such cruelty. It must have something to do with some obscure sexual rite or...
But then going back to The Beyond, my favorite scene in The Beyond involves this character named Emily. There's this blind woman in The Beyond named Emily who is sort of... She has seen hell, and she knows that this hotel was built over one of the 7 gateways to hell, and she's trying to warn the main character, Liza, about this. And she has this otherworldly quality to her, and then there's this moment where she freaks out and runs out of the house, and her feet don't make any noise when she runs, and then you see Liza piecing this together. Yeah, it's not a gory scene, but it's just such a fascinating scene to me. Oh, this otherworldly person makes no noise when she runs. So, you have Cannibal Holocaust, which is this disturbing, controversial film, but I think is so well done. And then you have The Beyond, which is gory and atmospheric and just such a great horror movie. I love these two movies so much. They are, like I said, they're my favorite Italian horror movies. I can recommend people check out The Beyond. Cannibal Holocaust is one of those movies that you need to do a little research before you check it out. I would say look into it first, see if it's something you can handle before getting into it. But I do think it's worth watching at some point. You gotta be ready. It's an intense, disturbing film. But anyway, The Beyond and Cannibal Holocaust, great Italian horror movies, both my favorites. Absolutely love them.
I wonder who the real cannibals are.